Come around, listening and join the fun. Learning as we go, new words and stories. Adventures begun. Let's open up the pages. Don't have far to look. It's all in a book. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room. Ruthy's Reading Room.
Why, hello, little readers. Welcome to Ruthy's Reading Room. I'm Ruthy, and this is my buddy Ja. He's joining us for story time today, and we're so looking forward to our next read together. Is everyone excited? Give me a high five. Ding! All right. So if you already have your stuffy or your reading buddy or your blanket, stay right there. If not, I'll give you a moment to run and get your stuffy, blankie, friend, neighbor, parent, relative, and come on back. See you soon. All right, my little readers, come on back, gather around, sit on the floor together. Or if it's nice spring weather where you are, you can read outside under a tree. I love the ideas. Okay, let's ask the question. Which book is coming off the shelf next? Which one, Ja? You know. Let's see. Yep, here we go. Ta-da! It is called I Am Not Being Lazy. I Just Don't Understand. This book was written by Gina and illustrated by D.G. And we've read some of these stories that are a bit longer before for our more advanced readers, right? Right, John? Yeah. So you have to be really quiet and patiently listen as the story develops. And we're going to read the story in 2 parts. So part 1 will be today, and the second part will be just around the corner. So we just have to wait a little while. But that will bring you on back for the second part, right? Okay, I know everyone's saying, read the book, read the book. Okay, Ja, take your seat right over there, and let's put our listening ears on and put our hands in our lap, and let's get really comfy in our spot. So we'll listen for the whole story, okay? Thumbs up. Okay, let me check. Okay, we'll use our Mr. Turtle magnifying glass and see that. Oh wow, some of you are lying down in a comfy corner of your couch, on the floor. All right, with the stuffies. I love it. You guys are ready to go. Chapter 1. As I walked into my new classroom for the first time, I felt more afraid than I've ever felt in my life. Fear that almost overwhelmed me. My hands were sweating, my legs were shaking, and I was afraid that everyone could hear my heart beating like a drum in my chest. Boom, boom, boom. The children in the classroom stared at me with big, curious eyes. I stared back with fear and confusion. I was fearful that I would not be understood, nor would I understand what was being said. It puzzled me that I had been placed in a classroom where no one spoke my native language of Haitian Creole. Wow, how scary would that be? First, you go to a classroom, a new school that you've never been to before. 2, you're looking at everyone and they're looking at you. And 3, you don't speak the same language that everyone else speaks. That would make me a little nervous too. Okay. As I walked to the last available seat at the back of the classroom, I felt everyone's eyes on me. I now understood how bugs feel under a microscope. Welcome, Georgette, to class 5-10, said the woman whom I assumed was a teacher. I looked up at her standing in front of the classroom, but all I understood was my name. At that moment, I wished that I could go back to my native country, where I did not have to worry about starting my education all over again by learning the alphabet, numbers, shapes, and basic words in a new language. I wanted to wish myself back to Haiti, where I felt safe and where everyone spoke my language. That's probably how I would feel too. Like, get me back to where I know, right? But that gives us a little glimpse, little readers, in how it might feel if you have to move to a new country, right? You have to start all over fresh. How would you receive Georgette? Let's see what happens in this story. Moving to a new country was not my idea. I did not have a choice. One day, while eating dinner, my parents announced to my siblings and me that we were moving to a new country soon, to a big city, New York City, to be exact. The Big Apple, they called it. They did not explain why. I was very sad because that meant I was leaving my friends and extended family behind, but I was also excited about a new adventure. So she found the silver lining, something new. My parents told us about the tall buildings and bright lights. They also told us about the trains that ran underground very fast. That sounded a little scary, but I still wanted to see and experience it. I wondered how they made the buildings so tall. I'd only seen buildings taller than 4 stories on television. My parents explained to us that some of the buildings were as high as 100 stories. Wow, I thought. I don't think that I will be able to see all the way to the top of those buildings. I was curious about how the trains were able to run under those buildings without the buildings falling on them. Isn't that right? Do you ever think about that, little readers? All these huge, big buildings, and they don't crash in on underground trains? Later that night, while in bed, my siblings and I talked about what we were looking forward to doing once arriving in New York City. We were very excited to try new foods and meet new people. I'm very talkative and love meeting and talking to new people. Unfortunately, in my excitement, it never occurred to me that I would encounter a language barrier. And what does that mean, little readers? Yep, when you're speaking a language, but the other people who hear you don't know that language. Throughout the first week of school, everyone in class was working and talking around me. However, no one tried to speak to me except for the teacher, whom I still did not understand. I tried smiling to see if that would encourage the kids to approach me, even to say hello, but they looked away as soon as we made eye contact. I was hoping that if they smiled back, then maybe I could approach them, but no smiles. I felt confused and alone, even though there were 27 other people in the classroom. It felt like I was on a deserted island. Yeah, that sounds really lonely, right? She doesn't speak the language, and it doesn't sound like any of the other students even tried to speak to her or communicate with her. Chapter 2. The first few days of school, whenever we left the classroom, the teacher would say, "Georgette, come," as she made a motion with her hand for me to follow along with the class. She used that way to communicate with me when we had to go to recess, gym, and the cafeteria. Unfortunately, my first time in the cafeteria was not a good experience. I followed Mrs. Levi, that was the name of the teacher, to the cafeteria, as she led us to a table and then just left. I was completely lost. I did not know what to do, so I followed the class, sat down, and waited. The cafeteria smelled and sounded very different than what I was used to at lunchtime back in Haiti. It was loud, chaotic, and confusing. The children were laughing, going from table to table, and being playful with each other. And some even shouted things across the room to each other. Back in my country, each class was served family style on a picnic style table. We were able to have conversations. However, our voices were not supposed to exceed a certain level. We were not allowed to leave our tables unless it was to go to the restroom, or else we would get in trouble. It was a complete opposite here. I wish someone had prepared me for what to expect. I was hungry and nervous, but I simply did not have the words to ask what we were supposed to do about lunch. Therefore, I sat there and kept waiting. It seemed like forever before I saw a woman with an apron on and a net on her head walked out of the kitchen and called out, "Class 5-09, get in line." An entire table full of students got up and formed a line where the food was. By the second time that the lady came out, I realized that she was calling each table to get in line in order to get food. I observed the kids once in line to see what they were doing so that I would know what to do when my table was called. When the lady with the apron looked at my table and said, "Class 5-10, your turn, get in line," I waited until most of my class lined up before I followed them. I was very nervous about eating the food because I had no idea how it was going to taste. Since arriving to the United States a little over a month ago, prior to starting school, my mom had only cooked food from my country. Therefore, I had not the opportunity to try any new foods yet. I hoped that lunch tasted good. When it was my turn to get food, the lady behind the food counter asked me, "You want French fries, hun?" I did not understand what she was asking me, so I said yes, which was what the student before me had answered when the lady had asked her the same question. The lady placed some long, fried, light brown food, what looked like cut up potatoes, and 5 circular, fried dough-like pieces of food on my tray. So everything is new for Georgette, even the food. She'd not seen food like this before. As I made my way back to my seat in the corner, I smelled the food on my tray a little to see if I could make out what any of it was. I hoped no one saw me and thought I was being weird. After sitting down, I took small bites just in case I didn't like them. I realized that I was right. The light brown food was potatoes. I later learned from one of my siblings that the circular fried dough-looking food was called chicken nuggets. I had never seen chicken or potatoes served like that before, but I liked them. Well, that's good news because something's got to go right for Georgette. For the first few days, lunch was not bad. We had French fries, chicken nuggets, burgers, pizzas, which I loved, and beef patties. However, on the fourth day, we were given something meaty and mushy that the lunch ladies placed between 2 pieces of bread, called a sloppy joe. I did not like it at all. I saw some kids eating peanut butter sandwiches, but I did not know how to ask for that. Therefore, I did not eat lunch that day. The lunch period was boring and lonely. It would not have been so bad if I were sitting with a friend. However, I always sat alone at the corner of the table, watching the kids talk, laugh, and eat in groups. Wow, Georgia is really having a hard time, and it doesn't seem like anybody, not a teacher, a principal, or other students, are helping her out at all. I hope things get better for her. Let's go on to chapter 3. 2 weeks had passed and not much had changed in the cafeteria or the classroom. I still sat in my class full of people, yet felt lonely and sad. I'd picked up a few words, but not enough to communicate. The teacher was teaching, the kids were working, talking, and even having fun, but I felt like a square peg trying to fit in a round hole. Mrs. Levi tried helping me, but nothing she said made sense. Everything that was written on the chalkboard seemed foreign to me. I knew and understand most of the letters. However, there were some letters like the letter Q, which does not exist in the Haitian Creole alphabet. That made it very challenging. The letter sounds were different in English. Therefore, I could not sound out the words like I would have in my native language. I felt like I didn't have a voice. Now this is getting really sad. That must be so hard, and it makes me think of all the thousands of families that move to even Canada, right? From different countries. They may not know the language, and then the kids are put in schools without maybe enough support, right? So it really gives us a chance to think of another person's experience, right? And that we As little readers looking for those opportunities to show love and kindness to others, we can be the friend who comes alongside to help a student like Georgette. Okay, keep that in mind, okay? While sitting in class, I overheard a couple of the students and teachers use the word lazy while looking at or pointing at me. I heard, "She is being lazy" a few times. I did not know what the word lazy meant, but from their facial expressions, it did not sound good. I asked my mom about it one day. "Mama, what does 'she is being lazy' mean?" I asked her while sitting in the kitchen having a snack. "It means when someone doesn't want to work," my mom answered. I was shocked. How can they say that about me? I thought. They do not know me or what I am capable of. Not only do I want to work, I want to participate and make friends. They have no idea how hard I've tried to figure out what was happening in the classroom or other places in the school building. I was so upset that the students and teachers thought that I was being lazy. I could not even finish my snack, even though I love ice cream. I can't imagine leaving ice cream behind if that was my snack, so she must have really been upset. The next day in class, I wanted to shout at everyone that I was not lazy. I just did not understand the language. I wanted to show the kids that I was just as smart and capable as they were. Speaking a different language did not make me less intelligent or a lazy person. I just needed to understand what I was expected to do. If someone was able to translate for me and I were allowed to write in my native language, I would have shown them what I was capable of doing. One morning on my way to school, I decided that I would find a way to participate in class. All morning, I tried figuring out what exactly I was going to do or say. When I finally did, I was excited but nervous. I decided to ask one of the groups of girls who were working together if I could join them. When we separated into small groups, I decided to make my move and ask them if I could join their group. I leaned over to them and asked, "Mwen ka chita avec nous?" which in English means, "May I sit with you?" She's making an effort, even though there's really no support for her. Wow. The girls looked at each other, then at me, and started giggling. Oh no. Feeling silly, I straightened back up in my seat and looked forward while they continued to giggle. I felt embarrassed and wanted to cry, but I was determined and was not going to give up. Good job, Georgette. That's hard. On my way home that day, I realized that maybe they had laughed because they did not understand me. Therefore, I decided to learn the phrase in English. When I arrived home, I wrote down the question in my native language and used an English Haitian Creole dictionary to translate the sentence to English, word for word. Then I asked my family to help me pronounce the words to the best of their knowledge, since they also were learning English. Feeling confident, the next day I leaned over to the same group of girls and asked, "I sit to you?" I was very proud of my English. I had practiced pronouncing the words all morning. However, this time the group of girls laughed out loud, banging their hands on their tables, holding their stomachs, and slapping their knees. The teacher had to eventually quiet them down. What did I say wrong? I wondered, scratching my head. Oh my, Georgia is really having a tough time, even with all her efforts to fit in and even participate. For the next couple of days, I tried hard to figure out what I had said wrong. I repeated the phrase in my head over and over again. I had translated it just like I say it in my own language, but something was not right. All right, that's part one of our reading. I feel like I'm kind of leaving it on a low note. Do you feel like a comeback is on the way? I hope so. But to find out, you have to join me next time for part two, right? Okay. Thank you for joining me in Ruthy's reading room for part one of this story. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, and hit that notification bell. Then you'll know when we're reading part two, and you can join in and hear the end of the story. And remember, the best place to read is wherever you are with a book. The other thing I want to mention is to check in the description below. You'll find the link to where you can purchase this book and you can read this over as you build your reading skills and get to that more advanced reading level. Okay, everybody? So, oh, I didn't see John was falling off there. You guys should have told me. I saved you. So have a great week. Happy reading, little readers, and we'll catch you again next time. Bye.
Ruthy's read it.